Okay, it's good.
All right. So I went through the archives and I found a picture of Chuck Foote in his first race using the one and only payphone that existed in Baker at the time for team communications. Hi, how you guys doing? Do you really need to communicate? I say yes, you do. Because as team captains, if you are the team captain or you're working for the team captain, this is what they really want to know. Are we ahead or behind schedule? Okay? A runner who gets hurt or whatever can really mess up your schedule, which messes up your shuttle schedule. If you've got a runner out there that for some reason has really had their Wheaties that morning and is running really, really fast, your team captain also needs to know that because it affects your shuttle times for your people. So in other words, where are we? What's the weather? Is it really 108 degrees at the start line? Is it really 28 degrees and blowing 30 miles an hour up at stage 16?
Yes.
And everything in between. Okay? Did anybody get hurt? More importantly, did they get transported? And most importantly, where? Not everybody that gets hurt during this race goes to the same place. If you're not aware of the setup, there's actually a full medical field hospital set up between stages 5 and 6. All right? 4 and 5?
4 and 5.
4 and 5, near stage 5. On it, some people go there. Some people get directly flown out by helicopter, but they don't go to the same hospitals. Some people go to the Desert View Hospital in Pahrump. So if you're the communications person, you're going to want to at least get some information from your team captain about John Smith got hurt and got flown to Vegas or whatever. So communications is important. You need to be able to communicate out. In other words, your follow vehicle needs to be able to communicate out if you have an emergency on the race course. This could be not only somebody getting hurt, but this could be your follow vehicle breaking down. Okay, team captains, what's your plan if your follow vehicle breaks down during the race? What are the rules if your follow vehicle breaks down during the race? Some things you need to look up. But most importantly, and something people don't think about, excuse me, what if we need to get a hold of you during the race? Okay, our communications people that are actually doing race operations, we're in touch with the command post, and if Officer Jones' little kid Johnny gets run over by the car in the driveway at home and Officer Jones is out on the race course, we need to be able to get a hold of Officer Jones. Hey, your kid got run over by the car and is in intensive care. Okay, so having good communications is important. One of the things that you have to do as your communications person is you have to fill out a form every year that tells us what your communications plan is. And it's not because we're really nosy or anything like that, but that's the main reason for it, is how are we going to get a hold of you on the race course? Dan or I or some of the other people that work on the team can pretty much talk on any forms of communications that you have, and we can get a hold of you. Okay, so if you've never been to Baker to Vegas, this is what it looks like from an alien view out there. And I show this map only because if you can't, I apologize for it being kind of small up here. I couldn't get hooked on the TVs. There's valleys, there's mountains, there's desert, there's metropolitan area. There's a lot of different challenges that you have for communications. There's a lot of things you need to do to solve those challenges. More specifically, this is what it looks like. Okay, and this actually shows you where the mountains are and all that kind of stuff. I mean, you start out down here at just a few hundred feet above sea level. You're going to end up going up to like 5,400 feet above sea level, and then you're going to go down into the metro area as well. All of these present challenges. These mountain ranges in here make it absolutely, well, almost absolutely impossible to talk from anywhere across the race course without significant help. So that's what the course looks like. Who's never been out on the course? Okay. So these are what your challenges are as the communications person for your team. You have to be able to talk across 4 counties. You have to be able to talk across 2 states. Okay? 6,500 square miles. If you draw a box around this race course, it's 6,500 square miles of terrain that need to be covered. Okay? We go from 470 feet to almost 5,500 feet. About half the course has no cell phone coverage. This used to be a big deal because we tell people you're not going to have voice communications, but think about this too. You're not going to have data communications. You can't text. You can't pull up your web browser and find your team if they're doing some kind of cell phone tracking thing in the follow vehicle or whatever. Okay? There is no cell phone coverage on about half the course. The first place you pick up cell phone coverage is going up towards Ibex Pass, because near stage 4, because BLM put in a cell phone tower because all the people with green stickers that crash their brains out in Dumont Dunes, which we always get involved with. And that's so even for the first several stages, you won't have cell phone coverage, anything, voice data, nothing. Okay? So the first thing you have to have, by the way, any time you have a question, raise your hand, because otherwise I will just motor along at 100 miles an hour here. So ask questions, because this is the seminar. You have to have an FRS radio in your follow vehicle. Okay? An FRS, or Family Radio Service Radio, is required in Chapter 10 of the rules. Okay? It has to be set to Channel 3, Tone 18. I'll explain that in a second. Okay? Channel 3, Tone 18. So the first thing that means, if you don't have or weren't willed some radios from your team from the previous year and you've got to go buy some, don't just get the cheapest model you can get, because it may have channels, but it may not have the tones. You have to have channels and tones to work. Okay? They're used to communicate with the nearby follow vehicles. These radios don't talk very far. People ask me, how far do they talk? I say, as far as you can throw them. Actually, a little further than that. But there are several rules in Chapter 10 about having your FRS radio, and also in the follow vehicle rules, that you have to use it to talk to other follow vehicles when you're passing. If Dan or I or another member of my team see a problem, like, hey, it's nighttime, you don't have a yellow light, hey, your sign fell off the back of your follow vehicle, we will try and get a hold of you on this radio. Okay, that's what that is. This radio is not for your team communications. In fact, your team can be penalized if you use this for your team communications. Hey, team 1, 2, 3 to stage 4, here we come, we're coming in now. That is not the type of traffic that goes out on this channel. And you cannot talk about team stuff. Buy at least 2 only for the follow vehicle. Because if you have 1, it's going to break. If you have 2, they won't break and you'll have a spare. Okay? You may think a bright yellow is great. I can guarantee you, if you drop a bright yellow FRS radio in the sand, you probably never find it. Happens. Dan and I usually collect 4 or 5 every year after the race. We just drive the course and go, hey, look, there's a radio there on the side of the road. But have at least 2 dedicated just to your follow vehicle. Okay? Like I said, you have to get the models that have the tones, as well as the different channels. You can get these things on Amazon, you can get Home Depot, you can get Lowe's, you get Fry's, a lot of different places have them. Make sure the radio that you buy takes disposable batteries or throwaway batteries. Almost all of them come with rechargeable batteries, but there's really no way for you to charge them during the race. And you're thinking, no problem, I will plug a cigarette light plugger into my follow vehicle and I will charge it during the race. Well, you're going to have to plug in about 10 other things too, because your cell phones are going to die. If you have a lighted sign, your yellow lights, and there's really no practical way to recharge these during the race. So go with the throwaway batteries. Okay? Some radios, the cheaper ones, take AAA batteries, which are the really small ones. Some take AA batteries, which are just small, not really small. Get the AA's. They last almost twice as long as the AAA's, unless you want to change batteries like every 2 stages. Okay? So now you're like, oh my god, I got to buy 2 radios, they got to have channels, I got to have tones, I got to take AA throwaway batteries. Carry at least 3 sets of batteries in the follow vehicle. If, towards the end of this race, all of a sudden you hear honk honk, roll your window down, and this rubber banded pile of batteries comes flying in through your window, that's me or Dan throwing you batteries because we can't get a hold of you on the radio. That's a clue. Okay? Dan and I are very good. I think we can do it at about 35, 40 miles an hour.
Oh, easily.
Here you go, some batteries. All right, headsets are a good idea. Some of them come with headsets, or they come with little earbuds. Some of them have ones you can just plug them in. Sometimes, somebody told me once they bought a set that even their like iPhone headset thing plugged into. It's good for the passenger. First of all, I'll tell you why the passenger should have this, but it's good to have the headset even in the follow vehicle. You're thinking, oh, in a follow vehicle, I'm not going to miss a call. People miss calls. You can be penalized for missing a call. So a headset's not a bad idea, whether it's an earbud or over-the-head one or whatever you want to do. You probably don't need the big earmuff one and all that. Because you're going to be listening to the radio in the car, and if you have a sound system, and people are going to be yelling, and when you're going past the checkpoints, there's just a bazillion people out there yelling and screaming and all that. So a headset is a decent idea, not required, but it's a decent idea. Now, if you buy an FRS radio, and it's got a headphone jack, and you're like, oh, I'm going to use my iPhone headsets or whatever, test that before the race. Because if they're not wired up in a compatible fashion, you're going to plug it in, and the next thing you know, your radio is going to turn on and be keying up all the time, and we're going to hear everything you say including all the comments you make about all the other runners you're passing. Don't laugh, okay? Wow, that person has a really nice jersey. You know?
Yeah.
We hear that stuff.
Usually not what they say, but
Yeah, that's kind of not what that's kind of paraphrase there.
And if you don't use headsets, don't turn the volume down. Leave the volume all the way up.
Yeah, we've got that coming up here.
Oh, okay, sorry.
Do not use the Vox or voice-activated transmission function. Again, some radios have this. If you accidentally turn this on, every time you speak in the vehicle, the radio is going to key up and transmit what you're saying. Okay? Look for a radio that has a function that allows you to lock in the channel and the tone, so you don't accidentally bump yourself onto a different channel. We recommend the radio should be monitored by the passenger, not the driver, because the driver's got other things to do. Okay, and it gives the passenger something to do, and all that good stuff. Okay, so this is what they look like. I'm not endorsing Motorola or anything like that. I can tell you almost any brand you buy there's only 2 people that make the chips in these things. So you're looking for, laser on this thing? Whoops. There it is. So you're looking for, usually there's a big number and a little number. The big number would indicate the channel, the little number indicates the tones. So you're looking for a radio that's going to have like displays of both maybe. Looking for something with a lock indicator, a little padlock that comes on, like the Motorola ones, you push and hold the button and it locks in place. If you get something or you inherited something or whatever and you're not 100% sure that it's what you need, bring it to any of the subsequent team captain meetings, and myself or anybody on our team will check them for you and make sure they're good to go.
and bring it sooner than later. Don't wait
Yeah,
until the
don't
last
wait till
team
last
captain's meeting to bring it, because inevitably it'll be the wrong one and you'll be scrambling to go out and
And
find one.
don't bring it Friday night to Vegas and have us check it, because if it's the wrong one, boy, you're screwed.
Right.
All right, so that is the follow vehicle FRS radio. Questions on that? Important, required. It's one of the few things that get you in trouble. Okay. Team FRS radios. This is an easy, inexpensive option for close-in communications for every team. And by close-in, I mean, hey, stage 4 catcher, we're quarter mile out. So that you can get the next runner ready, and your catcher knows that you're coming in, and can move up towards the chute. Because even though we have the early warning PA in place, sometimes they miss people, sometimes they call the numbers wrong. You've never seen a sadder face on a runner than when they run into the chute and there's no one to hand the baton to. Okay? Because then they have to stand there and wait. Or the guy's in the porta potty or whatever. So that's my, where are we going? All my stuff's underneath there, so.
Oh, I'm sorry. We're ordered to bring it up to the
Okay.
front. Can I move it for you?
Yes, you may.
I'm sorry to interrupt.
If it's orders, then I guess we can.
That's what it is.
I found out the hard way there's no wheels on it either, so.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sir?
I have a quick question.
Yeah.
Just actually a comment. We work Lake 9 every year, and every year there's at least 4 teams that come, various,
Yeah.
same team. Runners standing there with a baton like, well, now they're waiting and because listen to this. And where's that communication from the, the following vehicles and the, or where's the next runner?
Well,
I can't tell you how many times we're yelling out for runners, and they really haven't even got there yet.
Well, A, it kills your team. B, it's kind of demoralizing to your team. We've also had it where runners come in, and it's not that the runner didn't know they were coming there, it's you didn't set your shuttle schedules up right, the shuttle isn't even there with the runner yet.
But with this communication, I mean, it almost appears that some of these teams, and might be something that should be emphasized in a captain's meeting, that this communication's used, a little bit more than it may be, than they are.
We made a change last year, which I'm going to cover in a second. When you're coming to an exchange point, the ham radio operators that work those exchange points, they have a mile out person. They will call out the bib numbers, team 123 is coming, and then the stage itself is supposed to make a PA announcement. Team 123, runners a mile out. Sometimes you don't hear that because it's really noisy. Sometimes between the transmission and the writing down and saying it on the PA, the number gets transposed or screwed up. Sometimes 2 runners come in and they only call out one of them. It's not a perfect system. So like you said, sir, this is a great backup way to do it, okay, is to have a second FRS for team communications. And it's not going to go very far, but your runner's only going 5-6 miles an hour, so you're not going to outrun the radio, okay? So you can tell your catch, so if you do this, okay. So it's a good option for talking to your catcher as you approach the checkpoint, okay? You can't talk very far, but like I said, when you get in within that mile, you know, there's no point in calling 3 miles out because it's got a long way to go. Okay? Okay, so what we did was, starting last year, we had this tremendous problem with, we'd have comm seminars and we'd put out emails and all that kind of stuff, and we're like, the absolute freaking last deadline to get a channel for your team is this date. And then every year, Friday night, Dan's sitting down at the team captains meeting in Las Vegas, and about 10 teams would come up to him and say, oh, can we get a channel? Oh, we didn't know. And so it even got to the point where we handed them the letter that we sent to every team that said, you will not be issued a channel on Friday night. So that didn't work. So last year, every team got an FRS assignment. So you're going to get one of these. Whether you want to use it or not, there's no point getting back to me and saying, hey Jeff, thanks for the assignment, but I'm not going to use it. Tough, you're getting it anyway. Okay? Everybody's going to get one. Okay? A lot of people share channels, but they're on different tones, so the amount of interference will be minimal. And you can use this for your follow vehicle to talk to your catcher as you approach the checkpoints. You can use this if you're the team captain and you're chasing after your follow vehicle and you get pretty close. This is this other channel that you would use for team communications. You will receive a letter from me sometime in the month of February that has this on it. Okay? This is different than channel 3, tone 18. So you may have channel 3, tone 18 for your follow vehicle that you're required to have, and you may have channel 9, tone 4 for your team, or whatever. So that means, first of all, stick to the one that we assigned you. Don't just pick one at random and just say, I'll just use this one. Because if I get a complaint from another team, then we'll submit a penalty. Nobody wants to penalize anybody out here. We have to have some rules to have some order. You have to have a separate radio on 318 for the follow vehicle. 2 separate purposes here. Again, here's another reason for the reason the passenger should be the radio officer. Again, if for team radio, ditch the rechargeable batteries, go with disposables. Okay, AA's last longer than AAA's. Headsets are a good idea. Now in this case, headsets for your catcher. Because those of you that have ever done the, I barely saw you there, Martin. For those of you that have ever worked in exchange point or been in catcher, it can get really noisy in there. Especially at night, if you go into a checkpoint where generators are running and stuff. Not a bad idea if you're going to go this route with your team is to have your catchers have an earphone, at least an earphone, if not an earphone microphone. Okay?
Question.
Yes?
For the team channel assignments, are you going to spread those out around start times?
Yeah, that's how I do it, great, actually. But at any point during this race, anybody who starts at any time gets passed by somebody else. There's a big spaghetti chart for this whole thing, so yeah. But there is no duplicate of a channel and a tone. There's duplicate channels, but I had 0 complaints about interference last year. Okay, so now if you're thinking, well, this might be something I want to do, you're going to need to beg, borrow, steal, or buy multiple FRS radios. Because again, you need 2 for your follow vehicle in case one breaks. And then you're going to need, probably the team captain's going to need one, probably your catchers, okay, your follow vehicle. Before you go out and buy a 12-pack of FRS radios, almost everybody on your team that has kids probably has them. So you could beg, borrow, steal. Hi. How you doing? Don't be sorry. I'm glad you're here. Coffee, juice. Okay, you guys might not do well in the final because our car wants the answer. So before you figure I got to go buy a 12-pack of these things, you might have them. You might be able to scrounge them up amongst your team, or put out a bulletin in your department. Hey, we need FRS radio. All right, questions on FRS. Follow vehicle mandatory. Team, not a bad idea. You're getting an assignment whether you want it or not. Okay. FRS? FRS?
No, good.
Okay. GMRS Radios. Next up, I'm going to go through all the different options here, steps at a time. GMRS. So what exactly are channels 15 to 22 of my FRS radios? FRS is really only channels 1 through 14. Pretty much every radio has channels 15 to 22 on it also. It's actually a separate radio service. It's called GMRS. Hi there.
Hi.
How are you?
Good on you?
Perfect. Come on in. Have a seat, have some coffee. So when you get these radios, you might be like, wow, look, there's all these other channels at the end and they're not being used and all that kind of stuff. It's a different radio service. It stands for General Mobile Radio Service. it requires an FCC license. Okay, it's $90 for 5 years for an individual to have a license on it. Okay. They, depending on the manufacturer of your radio, they might have a little bit higher power than the FRS, but we're only talking 1 watt instead of half a watt on them. They are less crowded. They do make mobile radios in GMRS, and I actually have a couple teams that use these every year, but that costs money. There's actually at least one team that, there's multiple teams in Riverside County that actually set up a GMRS repeater, and they use it for the race. Okay, but they have it, they've got the money invested in it, they've been using it for years. Coordination is required. So at this point, anything above the level of an FRS radio requires what we call coordination. And like I told you when I introduced myself, my job is to keep Chuck Foot from getting arrested during the race. Okay, by the Provo Sheriff. And every one of you, as the communications persons for your team, is going to have to fill out a team communications form. And then what I'm going to do for a month is go through everybody's request and make sure that A, what you're doing is legal, and B, you're not interfering with people on the race course. And you're not interfering with each other. So if you think your GMRS is your solution, hey, some people in my station have some GMRS radios, or I know a guy who knows a guy, and maybe we'll put up a repeater. I'm going to make sure that somebody's got a license, because you're going to have to give me the FCC license call sign for it. And then it seems like every team wants to put in for channel 15, so I start spreading them out. So they do it, but you're going to have coordination on this. So that's GMRS radios. Again, it's channels 15 and 22 on the FRS, but they also make higher power equipment. Sir?
And every individual has to have a license.
There's
License
some-
are by family.
There's some grandfathered club licenses that are still out there. Grandfathered. Right now it's individual licensing only. Okay, there's a thing out there called XRS radios. I only bring this up because some teams actually used this one year. They're a little low power radio like an FRS GMRS radios. They use something called frequency hopping technology. It avoids interference and allows several users to use the same set of frequencies. They're very low power. The people that have used them have not gone back and used them year after year. But I want to bring it up because sometimes people get these radios and they're like, ooh, this is an FRS radio, this will work for me. And they bring it into us and we're like, no, this is one of these frequency hopping whiz-bang things and it's not going to work for you. If you use these, there are only 2 brands, Motorola and Tri-Square. You program what's called a code into it. We have to have the code on it so we can coordinate you on it. Oh no, the picture, oh there it is. That's what they look like. So they kind of look like FRS radios, but they're not. So especially if you go to your station or your department or whatever and you say, hey, everybody bring your FRS radios in, we're going to use them for Baker to Vegas. Okay, is anybody here from the FBI? Come in late. I'm allowed to poke fun at them because I worked on a task force with them for 8 years and don't get me started. They have, I kid you not, they got this Pelican case. And it's like, they open it up and it's all like foam die cut and they have like 6 FRS radios in there, a little spot for their batteries. They're organized, I tell you, they got it together. So anyway, if you see one of these, just be careful because it's not an FRS radio. Okay? It's something different. You can use them, but you can't. It's not going to fulfill your requirements for FOLV. Questions on XRS?
They're a lot more complicated to set up than the FRS.
They're not, yeah.
Not user-friendly.
Yeah, they're not at all. You can actually text with them and stuff, but you have to almost be in the same room to do it. Right. CB radio! Good buddy. CB radios are cheap, especially if you go to the Goodwill and you buy one for $10. Okay. The range varies greatly, but they will go, you can throw them farther than you can throw an FRS or GMRS radio. We have teams that use CB radio every year on the race course, and they seem to be happy with them. Okay? Coordination is required. Even if I coordinate you on channel 39 or whatever it is you request, I cannot control the other people out there in CB land who have CB radios. Expect visitors on your channel during the race. Expect them to say nice things to you.
We're not. Yeah, we're not.
Yeah, Yahoo, go cops. So these people don't necessarily play well with others, but there's some teams that just swear by them. They use them for the race course that works for them and all that. Oops. ACB radio. Yeah, you get these for like 10 bucks at Goodwill, so. All right, MERS and, next step up, MERS and business band radios. Okay. As we move up the food chain here, higher power, longer range. You'll be able to talk further. Nothing is going to allow you to talk over the whole 6,500 square miles. But you're going to be able to talk a little further. Okay? You can get a MERS or a business band radio, both portables and mobiles, in other words, handheld and car-mounted radios. There is no FCC license required for a MERS radio. There are only 5 MERS channels. They won't be nearly as crowded this year because Dan and Sandy's teams won't be using all 5 of them like they do every year. But here's why they use them. Okay, they've supported teams for years. I can take a MERS radio, it's got high power, it's decent rugged radio on it, and I can hand it to any team captain, any follow vehicle driver, any catcher, and they don't need a license or anything, and they can just use it. Okay? So some teams like them, some teams swear by them. They have them, they bought them, you know, they've amortized them over the years, they work really well for their teams. No FCC license required for the MERS, but Baker to Vegas coordination is required if you want to use them. Again, this is just to keep Chuck out of trouble and help us so we can reach you and all that good kind of stuff I talked about in the beginning. This is kind of what they look like. They have the portables, they have the mobiles. The mobiles almost look like CB radios, but they're called MERS radios. This is also, we're getting into things like you can go to Home Depot and Lowe's and buy radios and they'll say like yellow dot, green dot, red dot for the channels. These are business band radios. Okay, more powerful. You've used them extensively. You have any other comments on them?
No, they work very well.
We've got a team. Did you guys do mobiles with external antennas or just portables?
The only thing we used the MERS for was catchers.
Catchers. Yeah, it works well. Rental radios. This gets in your question, Jeff, and so I'm sure some of you have this question as well. This is getting to be a very popular option. Okay, well it always has been, but it's getting more popular because of something that's happened in the last couple of years out there. Okay? There are many companies in both the LA area and the Las Vegas area that will rent you radios. Until 2 years ago, it was actually pretty dirt cheap. You can rent radios for about $10 or $15 a radio for the whole weekend. Okay, but something has changed. Okay? Some of these companies will even bring the radios to the team captain meeting on Friday night in Las Vegas and deliver them to you. Radios, batteries, chargers. Here's your box of stuff. You don't have to bring them out here from LA. You don't have to worry about forgetting them. You don't have to worry about them being charged and all that kind of stuff. They will bring them out and then they will pick them up from you on Sunday. At the award ceremony, you turn them in. A lot of teams like this option because it's one less thing to hassle with. You just got to pay for it. Okay? A lot of it's a handheld equipment similar to the MERS and the business band radios. Almost everybody's just renting handheld radios. But there's a couple teams that actually rent the car radios and they give them to you with like a cigarette lighter plug. And you got the radio and there's a mag mount antenna that goes on top of your car. And some people are doing that. Okay. These are some of the companies that people have used in the past. And this is in no particular order or anything, but actually it is. It's in the order of the number of teams that use them. I can tell you one, I'm not here to sell one company or another, but I can tell you that one company for sure picks up and delivers. Some of the other companies do too. Some companies are law enforcement owned, some aren't. But I won't mention any names. But these companies sell out too. That's why people use other ones. Some of these companies are LA. Okay? Some of these companies have repeaters out there already on the course too. So it's just a question of asking around, shopping around, looking for prices. They're going to want you to sign a contract. You're going to have to pay them up front for the radios. Usually the price of the radio includes, I dropped it, I ran over it, it's buried in the sand somewhere, and all that. But they used to be pretty cheap. I saw an invoice once, it was like $15 a radio, I think, for the weekend, and the team rented like 6 radios, so for $100, they had some communications. Now here's what's different. There's a company out there called Mobile Relay Associates. Is that their name? Yeah. And what they have done is set up a, this will probably go right over most of your heads. They've set up a trunking system out there using rental radios, but what they do is they have a repeater down by Baker, and they have a repeater, they put a temporary repeater in at IBEX, and they have a repeater on Potosi, which may mean nothing to you, but they almost cover the whole race course. But they charge more for that. And to be honest with you, I haven't seen one of those invoices, so I couldn't tell you what they charge. But I can tell you that some of these companies, Omni, Rebel, there's one other one that's using that system. They wholesale to the renters, and the renters rent to you. But if you're going to rent radios, you might ask them, are the radios that I'm getting going to also be on the trunking system that covers most of the course? If you do that, you would have communications over a larger area for those sectors. So you would have communications over a larger area. Those of you that have trunking systems in your agencies know that only so many people can talk at once, and you're sharing frequencies, and there's pluses and there's minuses to it. Jeff?
Omni said it was $35 a radio.
Yeah, $35? Okay, did you talk to Karen? Yeah, she's awesome.
2 years ago, Rebel charged us $10 a day per radio for using our own radios. That was just airtime.
Okay. I have a feeling that prices are going to fluctuate wildly because they were really trying to get a foothold on the race. In fact, I have a meeting with them this afternoon, which is fine. I mean, they've got a system that has some pluses to it. But I can also tell you that on one of their sites, they've only got 3 channels. So that means only 3 people could be talking at once. Okay, so we can't use it for emergency communications because there's delays. But if it's a shuttle vehicle or something like that, just because you can't the radio and you have to wait 10 or 15 seconds before you could talk, that may be perfect for your solutions. But you can't go to mobile relay directly. I don't know if you guys did or not, or you went through Rebel. Rebel, yeah. They wholesale to the companies, and the companies will do it. I do offer this suggestion to you. If you're like, oh, that's something worth looking into, I'm going to call one of these companies, ask them about these radios and about getting this trunking option. Make sure when they program your radio that you not only get a trunk on that radio, but have them also give you a backup car-to-car frequency. Because there are places, just like every other radio system out there, there's places this does not cover. Okay? One of the places it doesn't cover is around medical base. So you're going to want that backup car-to-car channel. So that if you do have to talk to your capture and the system's busy or something like that, switch over to channel 2 or whatever, and you could just talk just like a regular radio, back and forth. I don't know if you guys did both, or yeah, that's the way to go. And Jeff, when you talked to her, did she mention that? Or
Yeah.
I don't care.
She
did
said
it last year.
She says it comes with it.
Yeah, extra channel. Yeah. So be careful of that. I mean, good system, great for these people for investing the money and going out there and putting up all this infrastructure on mountaintops and temporary stuff. But it's, if I was a sales guy for that company, I would say this will solve 100% of your problems. But I can tell you from practical experience that it may be less, it may be 99%, right? Catch my drift. Trying to get sued here. So. All right. Questions about rental radios. Very popular option. Get on it early because they sell out. The rental companies only have so many licensed frequencies. So it's not a matter of they run out of radios, they run out of frequencies that they can give to teams. A lot of these companies give preference to the teams that they rented to the previous year. So if you find a company you like and you can get a toehold on it, get your reservation in. And then you're in for a long time. Yes, sir.
Hey, sir, in regards to when you talk about coordination,
Yeah.
that involves the team radio, right, whatever you're going to communicate with. And when you talk about coordination exactly, I'm sorry, what does that mean?
We're gonna go over that. There's a form you're gonna have to fill out.
Okay.
Now, when you do the form on the rental radios, a lot of you are gonna call one of these companies. They're like, yeah, we're gonna give you a rental radio with a trunk and all that. You're gonna say, what's the frequency? And they're gonna tell you, I have no idea. That's fine. Because sometimes they don't assign them until they get closer to the race. But what you do have to do, if you don't know the frequencies, you gotta give me a name and a contact with that company. Some of these companies that I work with year after year after year are awesome. They send me a spreadsheet, I can take care of like 20 things all at once. Other companies, it's like trying to pry stuff out of them is like impossible. But I have to have that or you're the one that will suffer. So if you call this company, yeah, no problem, we're gonna rent you 10 radios, we got you covered. What's the channel? I have no idea yet. I want a name and a phone number. And tell them that they're gonna have to communicate with me sometime before the race. Actually, sometime before the deadline. Because I gotta have that information. It's the only way we can get a hold of you and it's the only way we can avoid conflicts. Some of the rental companies are licensed on the same frequencies. So I also try and avoid those conflicts as well. They buy licensed packages from the FCC. Rentals? Other questions about rentals? Not a bad option.
Karen's pretty good about it. So.
Well, I don't want to, I'm not going to endorse any single company, but she's awesome. She is, and she's a Vegas. She comes and delivers and picks up. And not only that, she coordinates with all the other companies in Vegas too. She's married to safety officer. They're awesome. A lot of other awesome companies out there. So don't sue me for recommending them, but there are a lot of others. And Rebel is actually a subsidiary of the company with the trumping thing, but they wholesale to everybody. So some of these companies, like JR, I think is here in LA. We have some teams that use that religiously. So it's a question of whether you want to get your stuff in advance and haul it with you and haul it home, or do you want to have your stuff delivered? Some of them have offices in both LA and Las Vegas. So look around. But I'd get on it like tonight. Other questions about rentals?
So you would suggest a mother's radio, that's pretty much the decent, pretty much the best option?
Well,
I mean, I know there's other ones.
it all depends on what you want to do. Some teams want to be able to, their team captain wants to be anywhere within that 6,100 square mile box to talk to anybody. Okay, great. Other teams are just like, I want to talk to my catcher when I'm coming into the checkpoint, and that's it. Okay. My last 9 years, I worked for the San Diego County District Attorney's Office. Our team ran with no communications and never had a problem, but we had responsible adults that were running.
Well, that's how you balance.
Okay, yeah, that's, so, I may have struck a chord there, but we had, because they're older guys, and, you know, we had responsible adults. And even if we knew somebody was walking or whatever, we never had a problem. We didn't have anybody that was so fast that we ran our estimate. No problem. But that may not work for you. About a third of the teams run this race with no communication. Shame on them. But they do. You don't have to have, you have to have your follow vehicle radio, but. So I can't really answer your question about, depends on what you're trying to accomplish.
You might have difficulty just going out and finding a Mears radio. They're not very common radio. If you're a radio geek like us, it's a no-brainer. But just to pick up the phone and start calling around, Mears are not a typical kind of radio. So
Google is your friend.
Hmm?
Google is your friend.
Yeah.
Amazon's your friend too. Yeah. All right. Other questions about rentals? This is not an inclusive list. There are other companies. I just plucked. This is actually from 2 years ago. I just plucked them off the forums in the order that they were used. Satellite phones. They're very expensive. Well, except for the federal agencies, you probably own 20 of them and have all your own stuff. And we got like DEA and DOJ and these people that come out there and they just whip out like 20 phones. All right, here we are, we're talking. For those of you that are considering renting satellite phones, they are very expensive. They're not only will they charge you to rent the phone, and they won't charge you for the weekend, but like this gentleman said, by the day. Some people do that, because he said $10 a day, which is $30 for the weekend. The per minute charges can be in the dollar figure, not the penny figure column. Okay. There's not a lot of success signals. People think, oh, satellite phone, all I got to do is talk up there. A lot of these satellites are out on the horizon. And you can get into places in this race course where you're blocked out by the mountains, and you cannot talk on the satellite phones. So some of them are low orbit, some of them are directly above. Not a lot of success stories. Other than the federal teams that own their own phones, I cannot really hardly find any team that's rented them 2 years in a row. But it is an option, and some people have tried it. Okay, so if you're on a federal team and you've got satellite phones, maybe they'll work for you. All right, my favorite topic. Actually, all right. This is, we should brought our hats.
Yeah.
All right, agency radios. This is what will get you in trouble. This is what will get Chuck in trouble. This is what will get us possibly, well, I guess I got to throw us off the race course for it, but this is a problem. You're thinking, oh, I'm going to use my agency radios. God, it's free. We've got a bunch of them. We've got a bunch of extra radios and a charger. I'm going to grab 6 radios on Friday and head to Vegas. All right. There's a cost of doing that. And some people just don't get this, okay? If you lose a radio, it's the first problem. Not only can you compromise your agency's communications, but if your agency uses any kind of encryption, you can compromise your encryption of your agency to the point where they've got to go back and reprogram all your other radios and change the encryption key. Because one of them is out there missing and has an encryption key, and I can hear all of your secret squirrel stuff. Okay? Do you really want to be that guy or that girl that lost the radio and caused the agency to have all the radios reprogrammed? This happened once, okay? Your federal agency, I'm sure being nameless. Okay. You can conflict with licensed agencies along the race course. Like I said, I got a later slide, Santa Barbara was like, we'll take our agency cars and our agency radios, and we're going to use TAC2 because we never hear anybody on TAC2. Same channel as prompt sheriff, did not have a sense of humor about it in any way, shape, or form. Okay? You can also run afoul of your FCC licensed. Okay? This is for my non-federal agencies. Okay? You can run afoul of your FCC license. Okay? You really, and in this case, the FCC is not going to come to Chuck, and they're not going to come to me. They're going to go to your chief. And they're going to say, "What the hell were you doing?" Oxnard, that's what it was. Oxnard PD comes out there with the radio. This is what started my position. Oxnard PD comes out there. We're going to use this radio, same frequency as prompt sheriff. You know, and the other thing I hear sometimes is like, "Oh, we're LAPD or LA Sheriff." Nobody else has our frequencies. Major metropolitan areas come to this race. Dallas PD comes. Dallas PD shares frequencies with LAPD and LA Sheriffs. Okay, they also have, for your technical heads, UHF T-band stuff. Okay, so you can't fall into that. Federal people, you've got a different issue, but this is for state and local people. Another agency came in. Hey, we're going to use this frequency. No, you're not. It's the Claymore Mutual Aid channel, and people use it. Some people coming in from Arizona. Well, we're going to use this channel. Well, no, it's the San Bernardino County Fire access frequency. For other people, they call that for help. Baldwin and Vernon comes in, and little do they know their frequency is the same as Las Vegas PD downtown dispatch. They were fine and dandy until they got past stage 16. Okay, what do you mean you're runner? Who is this? Tulare Sheriff, same as Prompt Public Works. USC, are they here? Because I saw the vehicle out here. Okay. They're actually Department of Public Safety. They're actually on a business band frequency. They're shared by about 27 casinos out there, and all that kind of stuff. And it's really cool to hear the slot machines in the background and all that. Some other agencies have some stuff that are part of the utilities out there. Las Vegas Water District, which is a very powerful agency, by the way. The Canadians come down, and they want to use certain channels, and again, they interfere with some fire mutual aid channels. So there's a lot of moving pieces here. So if you're going to use your agency radios, the hardest part for me to figure out is, are you going to conflict with anybody? If you're going to use your agency radio, I'm going to tell you, I don't find a conflict. I'm not authorizing you to do it, and if you run afoul of your FCC license, you're on your own. But I will tell you, I will deconflict it for you, at least. Okay. This is what a typical FCC license looks like for the city of San Jose. If you've never seen one, they're hanging around somewhere in your agency. Each one of these licenses actually allows a mobile radio or whatever it is to only operate in a certain area. That's your license with the FCC. In this case, these people can operate within 56 kilometers of the center of San Jose, the city itself. And that's it. They're not licensed to take their radios to Las Vegas and use them. Again, this is just another copy of their license that says you can use this within 56 kilometers of the center of San Jose. Okay, now the FCC is not out on the race course, hiding behind the bushes, looking for people with radios, but they will respond. Their number one priority is to respond to public safety complaints, public safety interference, and they will respond on the weekend in the middle of nowhere if we have a problem. So any questions about using your agency radio? There's a place on the form. If you're like, yep, I'm going to use it, okay, you're going to give me the frequency, I'm going to tell you I don't find a conflict with this, but you're on your own. Okay? Now, federal agencies do it a lot because they're controlled by somebody else. They're allowed to use their radios pretty much anywhere in the United States. They got DEA, DOJ teams. I don't know if Customs, I can't remember if these are agency radios, and stuff. So that's not a problem. But for state and locals, that's your call on whether you want to answer to your chief on it. If your chief says, go use them, I don't care.
Yeah. One other thing is your radio may not even work if it's not a car-to-car radio.
Yeah.
If it's going through a repeater of some sort of trunk system, it won't even work. So.
All right, questions about agency radios? Okay, let's take a break for a couple minutes. Pick their own frequencies, for lack of a better term. As a licensed amateur radio operator, I'm not stuck on a certain frequency like you are with the PD or like you would have with a rental radio. I have the ability to do things with different frequencies, pick my own frequencies when I do it. There's a wide variety of equipment available in the amateur radio service. There's base stations, there's mobiles or car radios. There's handhelds, there's repeaters. There's all sorts of stuff that can be done, all sorts of toys that people can spend endless amounts of money on. People are smiling greatly. We love Christmas. This is the time of year we get to buy all of our stuff that our excuses. We're use that for big Vegas. Dan and I both have a garage full of equipment.
Me too.
Somewhere we have a bunch of D-Star equipment. I don't know where it is anymore.
Yeah, we'll talk about that.
Yeah. All right, so where do I find these people? Okay, there are a lot of people, a lot of groups out there that exist that you may or may not know about, many of which are already affiliated with your agencies. Okay, a lot of departments have what's called a RACES group, or a ACS, Auxiliary Communication Service group, or a DCS group, Disaster Communication Service group. The LA Sheriffs has some great groups that work out of the different stations. I think Norwalk is one of the leading ones. The counties have these. They have the same thing, RACES, ACS, and DCS groups that are out there. San Diego County, RACES, well not ACS, comes out and supports like 17. They support all the local teams in San Diego County. Certain groups, these community emergency response team things you may or may not be familiar with, people wear little green hats during emergencies and stuff, and all that, they have communications components. A lot of them are handling out there. Community amateur radio clubs. Sandy and Dan have a club that for years supported teams in the race. We've got other clubs that come out and work stages together. They do the stage communications. Other clubs that just support certain departments. There's a lot of clubs out there. Even the Salvation Army has a whole division of people under them that do, it's called Saturn. It's Salvation Army
Emergency Response Network.
Wow, you are a smart guy. Red Cross has amateur radio people. Even Kaiser Permanente has a giant ham radio component people called Cape Horn and stuff that come out and do this.
A lot of schools have them.
Schools, yeah, schools have them.
Churches.
Yeah. Come on, one more.
Oh, fair.
Not only do a lot of these groups exist, a lot of these groups. Oh, you missed hospitals. Those guys.
Hospital
those guys
groups,
that
yeah.
from Burbank.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Orange County.
Yeah.
Loma Linda.
Yeah. And the one that's across from Disney Studios.
Holy Cross.
Dealers.
Yeah, they came out a couple years. So a lot of these groups, whether they're affiliated with your county OES, with your sheriff's department, with your police department, whatever, we have several groups that every year are funded to come out and work this race as their disaster exercise. There are groups that have money to go do exercises and have nowhere to go exercise. Please come out and play with us because it's free. Okay? Amateur radios cannot charge for their radio services. Part of the rules. So we have a group. We had a group from this hospital group in Burbank. They came out. They pulled one of those like bus-sized generators, and they had like a big communications trailer and a bunch of people. And they come out and they set up all their stuff and they do communications. We have a group from and the hospital pays them to go out because what a better place to test your disaster response than out in the middle of freaking nowhere. Okay. We have a group from San Diego County Animal Response Team. And what they are is the group of volunteers that goes out, like when San Diego County spontaneously burst into flames and they have to go rescue horses and all large animals. That's what these people do. But they're all ham radio operators. They have a toy hauler, and they bring it out and they set it up as a communications command post. They provide communications for our entire safety branch of the race. There's a lot of groups that do this kind of stuff. Some of the groups, like I said, come and work the stages. Somebody said they work stage 9 a lot. I think that's one of the Rizzi's group or something.
Yeah.
So, yeah. And all that. So they're around. Okay? So you don't have to say, I have no idea who these people are. Oops. All right, one of the other things that amateur radio does is a thing called APRS, Automatic Packet Reporting System, tracking. What they're doing is they're using amateur radio to track vehicles, specifically your follow vehicle. Okay? Dan and I and some other people set up a complete infrastructure for this tracking network across the entire race course. Every year, less and less people use it because more people think they're going to use like a cell phone tracking app. And then they realize, crap, it doesn't work on half the race course. And then we have a website that you can go and see where your follow vehicle is in pretty darn near real time. So if you're a team captain and you're sitting in a nice cushy hotel room in Pahrump or Vegas where there's internet service, you can see where your vehicle is.
Or the people that stayed behind and couldn't come out, they can watch it on the internet too.
Yeah.
The international teams use them a lot to.
Yeah. The teams from, you know, if you're not aware, we get teams from Australia, Germany, Canada, and stuff, and somewhere halfway across the world, someone's watching that follow vehicle go bloop, 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 across the screen. So I guess it's entertaining.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So some people are like, oh, we're going to do this, and I'm a team captain, I'm going to drive around with my iPad, and I'm going to follow my follow vehicle. You have to have internet service to see where these people are. Okay? So remember that half the course has no smartphone or air card or whatever you want to call it, service. Okay? It is the team's responsibility. We do not give out tracking devices. If we had a budget, we would buy one for every follow vehicle, trust me, but we don't have any money to do that. Each team is responsible to do their own tracking device. It has to be under the, quote, control, unquote, of a licensed ham radio operator. Doesn't mean that a licensed ham radio operator necessarily has to be sitting in there, but if there's a problem, a licensed ham radio operator has to give instructions to the person in the follow vehicle, unplug that thing, it's not working. Okay? A lot of these ham radio groups that I talked about a couple slides ago, they already do this stuff all the time. We do it for our support team, so I know where my people are during the race. You're like, what the heck is that? That is the race course, and everywhere, it's kind of hard to see, but everywhere you see a dot, this is where the vehicle put out a beacon signal about where it was. Coverage is not perfect. There's some areas that we don't have coverage. Okay, we're working on it. All right. This is going down the hill from 16. If you've ever been down there, it's a canyon. It's not perfect. But if I'm a team captain and my thing beacons every 5 minutes and I miss one of them, okay, so I got a beacon in 10 minutes. How far is your runner going to go in 10 minutes? Does anybody in here have somebody that can run 20 miles an hour? If so, I'd like to talk to you. Okay. So it's an option. Other people put the little cell phone tracking thing in their car, and they get position reports. You know, it's like the thing you can give your kids and stuff, like follow my kid or whatever. And they get position reports. They just don't get them over the whole race course. Okay. All right. Questions about the amateur radio, or Dan, comment?
Yeah, one comment I want to make. If you're interested in ham radio operators, two things. You can talk to us, and like Jeff said, this would be my 22nd race. We don't do it anymore. It takes too much time out of my life, and I'm trying to wind down. If you find somebody that can help you, start talking to them now. This takes a lot of time to set up an infrastructure to make it work. Our first year, we just got thrown out there and said, hey, can you do this? And we thought, well, we're going to see if we can do this. And we made it work with just a very shoestring budget and just a few people. Over the time, we have built up a great infrastructure, and we're able to talk from Baker Literally to Vegas and Pahrump and the entire race course to pass messages. It takes a lot of time to set it up. So if you can find somebody that is willing to help you, talk to them now. Don't wait, because they will have to go out in advance of the race, maybe several times, to set up different pieces of equipment to test it and see what works for them. If they need a device, we're happy to help them out with that. We're not going to do it, but we can tell them how to make it work. It has worked for us for 21 years. So
yeah, the race itself, race operations, is actually run by amateur radio. But things like the medical network, the medics and stuff, that's run on a public safety thing. There is no one solution that solves all the problems in this race. And it's kind of nice to have different systems, because one year the whole medical thing failed, and so we were able to run all the medical stuff on amateur radio. So it's nice to have redundancy and different ways to do it. Like Dan said, don't go to the last minute though, because if these people call me 2 weeks before the race, hi, I'm Joe from the ABC Radio Club. That's great, Joe, talk to me next year. Because one of the things that has to happen is the online communications forum, and there are deadlines for that. And it's almost too late to start for this year, but they could start. So.
no, they could. There's plenty of time left.
Yeah. All right, other questions on ham radio? Okay, online communications forum. I keep talking about. All right, the link will be on the Baker Vegas website. It's not there yet, or if it is, it's last year's. Don't try to use it on it. So it's all online. I use a web hosting service that works across all platforms. Last year, I probably had 15 teams do it just on like their smartphone. They fill out the form. Or it'll work on Windows, it works on Macs, it works on Linux, it works on anything. People in Australia fill it out. People in Germany fill it out. So we've broken through the problem of it doesn't work on my computer. The filing period for this form is January 2nd to February 3rd. Jeff, why is it not up now? Because every day I have the thing up, I have to go through and review every single entry, and I'm just not into that yet. I have to wait till, I guess it's a month. You have a month window to do it. Okay? If you have your plan right now and you know what you're doing, great for you, awesome. But you're going to have to wait till January 2nd to fill out the form. Okay? How many people think that 100% of the teams get their forms in on time? Then February 4th, I have to start chasing teams down. Okay? So where's your stuff? We don't want to penalize you. Oops. Okay. The key to everything is your team number. Okay? Not last year's team number, this year's team number. Okay? They change every, if you're not aware, they change every, except for a couple teams that have permanent numbers. They change every year based upon your finish. Okay? Please use your department name for when you fill out the form. Okay? Don't enter Uber Roadrunner Club, because I have no idea who the Uber Police Department is. Okay? I have to match the name with the team number to make sure it's really you guys. All right? So please put in the name of your agency. Please don't. What is SBCDA? Somebody take a guess.
San Bernardino County District Attorney.
San
Ron.
Bernardino County District
Santa Barbara County District Attorney. So don't use abbreviations. Okay? Please don't put LAPD. I need a little bit more specifics than that. Or LASD. I'm going to need a little bit more specifics than that. Huh? All right. You need to know some things before you fill this form out. Sadly, the company that I use to host this, because I'm paying for it out of my own pocket, does not allow you to save a form and continue. You've got to sit down and do it all at once. So the first thing you're going to need to know when you fill out this form is, who is you? In other words, who am I going to get a hold of if I can't figure out what you did? This may not be the team captain. If you're the communications expert for your department and you're putting together the plan, I want your name. If you're the poor team captain who introduced themselves to me at 9 o'clock this morning and said, I got handed this and I have no will and testament and help me, then yeah, put yourself down there. And when I call you, though, if you think there's somebody better that's going to answer my technical questions, put them down. I need somebody I can actually get a hold of. Because come the first week of February, it's really crunch time. We have to get this stuff done. Okay? I also need to know the name. If there's something you need to plan before you do the form. I need the name and the phone numbers of 2 people, 2 responsible adults that I can get a hold of during the race. Okay? There's a team that every year puts the same person down twice, and every year I tell them, don't do that, do it again. Okay? I need 2 people. Because sure enough, at some point during the race, one person's going to be asleep, and the other person's going to be on someplace on the race course where I can't call their cell phone. Please do not put your dispatch inside line down there. Rialto Police Department, Dispatcher 22, how can I help you? Yeah, we need to get a hold of Ryder so-and-so. Who is this? What are you talking about? I want dispatch. I want somebody who's out there on the race course. It's very, very important. Race operations is the only 24-hour contact during the race. Command post is not open 24 hours. The war room is not open 24 hours. I need somebody we can get a hold of. Then, another thing you're going to need to know before you start doing this form is all that technical stuff about all the stuff we covered earlier. What's your plan? We're only going to use FRS. We're going to rent satellite phones. We're going to rent radios. We're going to use our agency radios. Whatever you're going to do, you need to know ahead of time. Okay, you can't save partial forms, so you kind of have to have your plan down before you fill it out. I swear I'm going to make a slide that shows a guy standing at the start line going, Jeff, I have my communications plan now. Okay, the day of the race is not the day to do communications plan. You need to know in advance. I know it's kind of a pain, but there's a lot of reasons why we have to have this stuff all set up before the race starts. It's friendly application. If you hover your mouse or your finger over a certain box, a little box pops up, a little help, gives you more information, and all that kind of stuff. Okay, this is actually last year's form because I haven't done this year's form yet. It's going to look very similar. Okay, I know this is kind of hard to read, but it tells you all the things I just told you, and then it's going to say, I need your team number and your team name. Okay, so that's the key to everything. All right, it does not lock. If you put in team 1, 2, 3, and you were wrong, and somebody else comes up and puts in team 1, 2, 3, it's okay. It allows multiple entries per team, but then I just have to sort them out. because sometimes plans change or whatever. People screw up with the wrong numbers. But please give me a agency or team name that makes sense to me, that can make sure you've got the right team number. If you mess something up, kind of hard to see here, but it'll highlight the whole thing in red, and it'll tell you what the problem is, and it'll tell you up here, hey, you made a problem, and all that kind of stuff. So it's pretty good at checking stuff as you're putting it in. Then it's going to ask you for the same things I just told you about in the bullet points earlier. I need the communications contact person. And as you go through each thing and highlight it, it gives you some description over here about what I need. So at 11 o'clock today, if you've already forgotten everything I told you, it'll tell you what to put there. Okay, I need a person, I need a name, I need an email and a phone number. My primary method of contacting people is email, because you may find this hard to believe because I have to deal with 275 teams and I don't remember everybody's first name. And I need to do it by email, so when I go back later I can say, oh yeah, they did send me an email and I forgot. Please don't call me or send me an email. Hey, this is Bob. I have a question about my team. Oh, ooh. Okay. It's going to be by email. I need your two contacts. I need responsible adults that I can get a hold of during the race if there's an emergency, especially if you have an emergency at home and we need to get a hold of them. It's very important. It's happening. Then it goes through a bunch of other stuff, and then one of the other questions, about, okay, if you're using CBs, what channel, and if you're using MERS, what channel, and all that technical crap that you'll have figured out ahead of time. It's going to ask you, one of the questions towards the end is, will your team have any base camps or communications points along the race course? And if so, where? Please don't put, yes, Las Vegas. That's great. I may have to, if I can't get a hold of your two people on the phone and you have an emergency at home, I'm going to send a runner. I'm going to send somebody like Dan or Sandy or something like that. We're going to go find you guys. There's a lot of people that set up command posts in Shoshone, or we park our motorhome next to stage 8 on the side of the road or whatever. Let us know, because in a worst case scenario, we're going to hunt you down. Okay? If you're not doing it, just put no, NA, or just leave it blank. But this is important. We've actually had to do that. We actually have to chase people down. Actually, I'm sorry, that's up front. I asked you that. Then it says, are you using any communications? This will change a little bit this year, the wording. But here's the deal. You can fill this form out in about 3 screens if you're not doing anything. You give me your team name and number, give me all your emergency contact information, whether you have a base camp, and then it's like, if you're not doing anything beyond FRS Radios, then you just answer no and you're done. Okay? That's all you got to do. You don't have to fill out a bunch of other crap and all that. I try to make it as simple for you as possible. Okay? So all you're going to do is use the FRS Radios for the fall vehicle, and if you're going to use that for team communications, that's it. You click no and you're done. Okay? Make it really easy. I don't make you go through a bunch of screens you don't need. Otherwise, it's like, all right, GMRS, and then you go through, this is typical, what's your call sign, what frequency or your tones are you using, all this kind of crap. This is all the technical stuff that somebody, you or somebody smarter than you needs to be able to provide. Agency radios, same thing. Please don't put your agency radio when I ask for the frequency. Please don't put TAC 2. Okay? I'll figure out what it is, but just, you need the numbers. Okay? I need to know the numbers. That's what I need to deconflict. If you're a federal agency and you're concerned about communication security, this goes absolutely nowhere. It does not get printed. I have a copy. It doesn't go anywhere. Don't worry about it. It's not gonna, I got a DEA team that says, I'm not going to give that to you. It says, yeah, you are. You're not the NTIA. No, but on the race. I have to have it. Are using ham radio communications? If you are using amateur radio communications, I'm sure there are questions that I could ask you that you would have no idea what I'm talking about. So just give me the name of your ham radio person and I will talk to them. Okay? Again, I'm trying to make this as easy for you as possible. Ham radio, a bunch of rules and all that kind of stuff. All right, and then there's a place for additional comments. Okay, if you want to put down, Jeff, this was the best form I've ever filled out in my entire career. But seriously, if you have a problem like, hey, we have a third emergency contact, or we have a second base camp, or anything I need to know. Anything that's going to be related to race weekend that I need to know. Okay? Or, Jeff, we rented from whatever rental company, and even though I don't have the screen for it, there's a contact person, but you can say, okay, like I talked to Karen and Omni, and she will get you the information on the frequencies or whatever. Because I understand it's getting more complicated and they can't always give it to me up front. Because this form has to be done the first week of February. Okay, so then you'll see this screen. Woohoo, got the form done. Okay, this does not mean that you're done. Okay? This just means you got the form in and it's winging its way to me. I still have to go through it and look at them. I try and look at them every day. But so I should, if there's a problem, you should hear from me within a couple of days on it. Okay? You get an email, I get a copy of the same email, and it's got everything you filled out on it. Take a look at it. First of all, if you don't get this email, then you screwed up when you typed in your email address. Okay? And I've had that. I've got people that can't even type in their own email address on it. I think this year I'm going to try and put it so you have to put it on the form twice, so at least I got 2 choices. But you should get an email that's got all your stuff on it. If you didn't get that email, and this program is pretty quick, the longest I've ever seen it take is an hour to get the email back out to you. Usually it's within seconds. Then something happened. Okay? And I'll have my email at the end here, and you can email me and say, oh, it happened. I'll get it, but you may not get it. Okay? So you get a confirmation message. Questions on the form. They go live on the 2nd. They're due on the 3rd, I think. Whatever I said.
Yes.
I think that's what you said. I forgot.
3rd.
Yeah.
All right, questions on the form. So between now and January 2nd, we need to start. What's my plan? What am I going to do? Okay. You're going to need to know all that information before you do the form. Comments on the form? You guys don't deal with the form much, but okay.
Yeah. I'll have a link on my website.
Okay. All right, Chapter 10 of the rule book. Who's never read the rule book? Seriously. Anybody not read it? You need to read it because these are all things that can get your team in trouble. I absolutely, positively can stand here and tell you from the bottom of my heart, nobody wants to penalize anybody in this race. Okay, we work hard not to penalize people. Okay? But we have to have some rules to preserve some order on it, so we can always hang something over your head so that if you become belligerent, we can say, look, we need your form, or whatever. Okay? We need those forms done by February 3rd. There is in the rule book, there's a 5-minute penalty if you don't get it turned in. We're going to try and hunt you down, but don't make me do that. Okay? I got 275 teams to deal with. Get the form in. Okay? Ultimately, if you never get that form done and we come up to race weekend, they will not allow you to start the race. Literally, will not hand you your baton. Never have that happen. Get your form done. There's all sorts of things that could get you in trouble. Okay? Any uncoordinated communications. In other words, you have decided, you know what? I filled out that form and I put down we're doing nothing, but man, we got all this stuff we're bringing out there. They're never going to know that we're talking and stuff. We find people out there all the time. We sit up there, we monitor the spectrum, we do all sorts of stuff and all that. So don't do stuff that you didn't put on your form. If on February 4th, all of a sudden you're like, oh my God, I got a ham radio group, or I got something and they're going to cover me, then just get a hold of me and we'll work it into the plan. Okay? But don't just come out there and wing it. Or whatever you do, don't lie on your form about what you're doing. We'll figure it out. And once I send you the coordination letter, I guess I didn't do that. Okay, so after you do the form, about February 10th, once I got all the stragglers in, I go through, I make this giant spreadsheet, I go through and I start coordinating stuff and deconflicting stuff and making sure you're not talking on the prompt share frequency and all that kind of stuff. Then I send you a letter. It's actually like a PDF of a letter. And I highly recommend you carry that with you on race day, because if somebody comes up and says, you're interfering with my communications. No, I was coordinated on this frequency. I'm not the FCC. I can't hammer anybody. But I am part of the race rules guys, and we can't penalize your team. So carry that form with you. I carry every team's form with me. So there's only 1 year we had people like, carry it with you. You'll get a letter from me on it. If you don't comply with what's on that letter, because I may send you the letter, you asked for A, B, and C, and you are being coordinated on A, B, and D because some other team had C before you. Okay? Then you're going to have to use A, B, and D. If you're using C, you could get penalized. I only do it if the other team complains about it. I will also tell you this. For those of you that did not get a last will and testament from your predecessors, if you submit the same communications plan you had the previous year, those are the people that get priority on coordination. If you're doing the same thing over and over, I'm going to give you the same frequencies if I can, over and over. Okay? And if you don't know what your team did last year, get a hold of me afterwards and I'll tell you what they did. Okay? I may have that with me. If you buy something from Joe's Trekker CD Bars Jupiter shop, something or some kind of just weird ass equipment out there, you could get disqualified. I can't imagine anybody in this room could get their hands on anything like that. That stuff. Maybe some amateur radio operator, overzealous, overachieving amateur radio operator.
No.
No. I don't think we've ever had a problem with not type accepted equipment. If you interfere with a prompt sheriff or anybody else, and we tell you knock it off and you keep doing it, you'll be disqualified to pull off race courses. That simple. That was a really ugly incident. And it's not, my marching orders are, that's not going to happen again. So don't do it. Go through the coordination process. Won't have a problem. Ham radio, there's different rules for the ham radio people. I will basically discuss this with your ham radio group. I told you before, there's a lot of ham radio groups out there. If you've never used one and you're sticking your foot in the ham radio pool for the first time, use your sixth sense about who you're getting involved with. 99% of all the ham radio groups are very well-meaning, very well-qualified people that have had some training and know what they're doing. Every once in a while, we'll get some whiz-bang person off the wall doing something that we're like, what the hell are you doing? If you're not sure, you can contact me, and Dan or I will get back to you and maybe give you a little advice on it. But I don't think we've, recently, I don't think we've, everybody's been good. Yeah. But they have some rules. They can't come in and use 30 frequencies, okay, because there's only so many to go around. We give them 2 frequencies per band. If they come in and use other people's mountaintop repeaters and stuff without permission, they can get in trouble for that. If they don't submit, they have to submit even more information to me on what they're doing. If they don't do that, they can be penalized as well. Yes, sir.
Amateur radio licensing is based completely on knowledge, not skill and the ability to play well with others.
Yeah.
95% of all amateur radio operators are responsible adults.
And as far as communications goes, if this is an option to you, this is your best option. Like I said, we can talk from Baker to Las Vegas to Pahrump, Shoshone, anywhere on the race course with no problem whatsoever. Doing that with any other form of technology doesn't happen. And the other good thing about this is particularly if you have a group that's affiliated with you or your fire department or any of the disaster services, it's training for them. Like Jeff said, there is no better training, and we stressed this for 20 years, than doing Baker to Vegas. You throw everything in the mix, weather, topography, everything else. If your group can make it work out there, they can make it work for you when the real disaster happens for whatever agency you work for. It's perfect training and a good liaison between you and them. They get a chance to show you, hey, we're a viable option for you guys when you need us. So it works out for everybody.
Now that being said, you also have to kind of maybe tiptoe a little line here as you're coming forth as the communications person. Some agencies send their affiliated amateur radio groups out with full work comp coverage.
Yeah.
And other agencies don't. So be careful of that. Some agencies are like, yep, it's a training exercise. If you get hurt, we're going to cover you as a disaster service worker or a volunteer with the county or the city. Other people are like, okay, you can go out there and do it, but don't get hurt. So careful of that track. Also, to follow what Dan said, your LAPD people, if you know Piper Tech is like part of the radio shop, they actually, this whole disaster planning thing, that's how our whole medical radio network is being justified. Okay, they come out and do that because they're a disaster planning people, and they have got a completely portable network that they keep refining every year to use for it. So it's a good resource. But anyway, so they have some rules they have to obey. Some more rules about digital stuff and all that kind of stuff. FRS, okay, back to the little radios. If you're interfering with somebody else where I didn't assign you, you can be penalized. Again, we're going to try and find you and warn you and all that kind of stuff. We do have some channels that are set aside for other things. Medical people at stages, motors, safety, some other things I'll cover in a minute. There's a lot of other moving parts here. So don't think that just because you found a channel that you don't hear any traffic on, don't go over there. Everyone is in use. They're all in use during the race. Doing anything uncoordinated could get you disqualified. Here's the big picture. Okay, this is what I got to look at. First of all, we have to go out there and be good neighbors. Okay, if we don't have the support of Baker, if we don't have the support of the town of Pahrump, then they could pretty much force us out. They could file complaints when we get permits to run on the highways and all that kind of stuff. We need to be good neighbors, and that includes when it comes to communications, okay? There's a lot of moving parts besides just what I'm talking to you about today, okay? There's a medical team that has a very extensive communications network. We spend over $100,000 a year on the race treating the 10 or 11 people that really need medical attention. Okay? As Chuck Foote would tell you, if I could pay those people $1,000 not to come out and run the race, I'd save money. Right, Chuck?
That's right.
That's right.
Take a lot of anguish.
But the medical team is a whole other giant moving cog in this communications thing. We have a thing called Safety Patrol. If you're not familiar with what they are another group of amateur radio operators that work the California side of the race course, and basically they are just cruising along looking for down runners. Because we, like I told you, we have teams that go out there and run this race with no communications, and like a runner will go down, and the runner will collapse on the side of the road, and the girlfriend will jump out of the follow vehicle and will deploy the alternate runner and go, all right, go ahead and call for help, and then she can't get out, she can't dial 911 on her cell phone, and her RA doesn't get there in 2 minutes, you know, like downtown. So we have a whole team of people that just are looking for down runners, and every year they find at least one down runner that's out there stranded with no communications, every year. Okay? Motors, there's a group of motors. Their job is to facilitate the flow of traffic, try to improve the safety out there, and they have communications networks as well. The RV support group, the people that check you in at the stages and work at the stages, they have communications networks as well. So in addition to all the things that I told you, you got to understand that what I deal with is I take all the stuff you guys have and I have to make sure everything fits together for the race. Last year there was over 500 coordinated frequencies in use for this race, not including the FRS assignments for the teams, which was another 200 and something on top of that. There's lots of parts. That's my email. Please note that I'm smart enough not to give you my cell phone number. But seriously, I have to do everything by email because I get so much communications, especially during January. So if you have questions, and if you have a real technical question, I'll probably pass you off to Dan, and he can help consult with you on that. Okay, what I want to do, any questions? Have a show video. I have to admit, it's a ham radio puff piece for the race, but I want you to watch it in the context of overall communications, and I want you to look and see how all the different parts fit together. And for those of you that have never been on parts of the race course, you'll see some things that you haven't seen before.
Morning. My own system downstairs saying I want a receipt telling me that you've opened up your email. Too many, I send out too much stuff. It just burdens me to look through it all. Months and months after the race is over, I'll get an email back from someone that says, I just now looked at all your stuff. Of course, I hit the delete button. I'd say, what? A maroon. Why are you sending me that information now? Please read what I send you. I send you emails. The bigger the type set on the email means the more often I'm trying to reach you. And when it reaches about 20, I say, okay, that's enough of this, I'm going to call you. I've got your phone numbers. Hopefully they're accurate. I want your cell phone number. You'll see my name pop up, my phone number pop up. Please answer the phone. I'm not one in for texting. People send me texts and I say, hey, listen, if I send you, I'm here right now, call me. I want to talk to you, not physically punching you, text messages back and forth. So do try to do that. This particular piece of the information is very important. As I start to reach, and as Jeff starts to reach the last dozen teams that have not completed that form, now I'm really looking for you. If I can't find you, I just call your captain. I don't mess with the lieutenants or the watch commanders or anybody else. I go right to your commanding officer, whoever that is, chief of police if necessary, and say, I'm looking for so-and-so. It is very important. You find them. I'm not going to search for them. You find them. And when you do, you tell them I'm looking for them, call me right now. I don't want to put you into a bind, but damn, you know, if you put me into one, I'm going to put you into a bigger one. So try to make sure that we're following each other on the communications. Very important. This is one of those. Whether you get the right size t-shirts or not, yeah, that's important. Somebody will be mad at you if you give them a 3X and they want a small. But I'm not going to be so concerned about it. But other forms are very important, and let's make sure that we get them in. This is one of them. I hope after today you've learned the value of having a good communication system. And again, they're very cheap. You know, you don't have to have a repeaters out there and be able to talk to somebody in Las Vegas. Not really even necessary. But follow car to catcher, that's important. That's the one that's really important. Because the catcher's the one who's going to worry that the runner's not there, or that you change runners at the last minute. That's the person who's going to be concerned. The runner's going to be concerned. Hey, I'm all ready to go. Where's the team? And then the catcher says, oh, sorry, man. The guy had to walk the last 3 miles. They're going to be half an hour before he gets here. Goes back and sits down, has another cup of coffee. He's going to wait a while. Or the opposite. Now, the team is 30 minutes early. You miscalculated your ability. Now they're 30 minutes early. And the guy's still sleeping in his car. You're over there waking him up. Hey, man, get ready. The guy's going to be here in 2 minutes. Oh, wow, I don't have my bib on. It ain't done. Yeah. The communication's very important, or you're going to be rattling around trying to get all that done.
One of the other things that can happen is that if a team, and this is beyond communications now, but if you haven't even hit your mark on your estimated times, and you get way out in front, you could outrun the infrastructure for the race to the point where like stages aren't ready for you. And at that point, Chuck or whoever's making that call up front may actually stop you. And that's another thing where you're going to have communications, because that cascades down to all your shuttle drivers and everything down the road as well. That happens
Every year I've stopped somebody. Because, they miscalculate their ability. They think they're slow and they're fast. If you're fast and you're slow, I'm going to leave you out there in the desert. Plain and simple. You've got to be at stage 18 by 0700 or fold up the tent and go home. So the fast teams, or the teams that are near the 4 o'clock starting time, must be accurate with their ability. You misjudge your ability and you're a noon starting time, it probably isn't going to matter a whole bunch, except to you. But calculating your time and getting stopped, as we do sometimes have to stop teams, the punishment is we stop you. Time we're going to take away from your overall time and from that individual's time. So that's not too big an issue, but again, it does, as Jeff says, cascade down to the rest of your team, that instead of starting at 03:25, you're now going to be kept for 30 minutes. And that's going to interrupt somebody's hitching their get along here. Anyone else have questions about operations here? Who's a brand new, never been there before team? Okay.
New team's captain's next meeting?
New team captain's seminar is the 4th of January, where I'll try to give you about 6 hours of as much information as I humanly can to make sure that you've covered all your bases to that point, that you're clear on what you have to do, and again, making the mistakes as few as possible. The key to the whole thing, to be a good team and to do well, is to be as organized as you can be. And if you're there, I don't care if you're a slow team, if you're organized, everyone will have fun. If you're poorly organized and you're still a good team, then they're just going to be mad at you. They're going to be mad at you because you didn't think of something. You didn't organize them right. And now they're mad at you. Even though you put in all this time and effort and you work hard at trying to get this done, they'll still be mad at you. And for months on end at the station, when you run into them, they're going to remind you, man, you told me we were going to get a mug and we're a shitty team, we didn't get one. And you told me so-and-so could run well, they walked their whole 6 miles. You're going to take the heat for all sorts of things and screw-ups. But again, the more time you can put at this, then the better organized you get and the better the outcome. We are going to, speaking of medical for just a minute, I'll talk medical in here, but maybe not to the detail that you get to here. Every year, for the 33 years that I've done this, somebody gets hurt. Last year, somebody got hurt enough so that the injury is permanent. You do not recover from certain injuries. Dehydration is a serious problem. Dehydration left to get complex and worse becomes an even more difficult problem. Us trying to get medical assistance to a runner 200 miles in the wilderness is certainly a daunting task. We're going to try to improve that, but nothing improves a person getting hurt. And unfortunately, this deputy sheriff, LA County deputy sheriff, who was hurt, to this day and forevermore, will not undo the damage he did to his kidneys. Can't undo that. You can undo a certain amount of damage done to your liver, but not your kidneys. And so it's very important that all of us, you, me, and everybody else, try as much as possible to say, yeah, we want you to have fun and we want you to race well. I've raced all over the country and halfway around the world, in every condition possible, from freezing cold to fire engine hot. And I've managed to not hurt myself. Only because I realized what are the circumstances here? How hard can I push myself in these circumstances? And that's what you're going to have to try to get to your team, how hard to push yourself. Unfortunately, for most teams out there, they're fun teams, and they can't hurt themselves. They got one speed, slow. And as long as they're drinking water when they're running slow, they can't hurt themselves. But those trying to run fast, those are the ones that try sometimes when they're not prepared for it, they do hurt themselves. We're going to make a shot here at actually having a doctor, full-fledged, in-training doctor at the first 8 exchange points where injuries do occur. And we're going to make a stab at that and work with a hospital out there in the desert to try to get this done. But it's real important. A person can sign out AMA, against medical advice. You could have a gunshot, 5 holes in you. And if you're conscious enough, you could say, that's okay, I'll go home anyway. Put Band-Aids on. You can do that. You can refuse medical help. But we certainly don't want people to do this. And we want to get the best treatment, quickest treatment possible to stop things from getting worse. This deputy last year was flown from the race course directly to Las Vegas. And when they fly somebody directly to Las Vegas, it's because the ground medical personnel realize this person is worse than the normal dehydration. And the pilot and the medical people aboard the medical helicopter realize it as well, and they flew him directly to Las Vegas, where you can get the best help. And he got the best help. But he still stayed there till Wednesday after the race was over. Came back to work, went off work. Went back to work, went off again. So again, this can be very serious if we're not careful. Most people are all right.
Let's say, like I said on communications, that's another reason to have some kind of a communications plan in place, because if somebody gets flown, you need to know who it was and where they went. And if you don't have communications out on the race course, you may not be able to find that out. We've had, every year, in addition to people get hurt, we get people that come to us every year going, what happened to Johnny? Where did he go? And we have to track down patients and get information back to teams. That's why I need your 2 contacts, responsible adults. And if you have communications, we can get that information to you right away.
Last year we placed an individual, a retired fire captain who's used to this kind of operation at Medbase for that sole purpose of determining who went where, what hospital did they go to, and then try to make contact to you, to the spouse, to somebody on that sheet of paper that says, contact this person in case of emergency, so that they would know that they went to Pahrump. Because if you go to the Pahrump Hospital, to the emergency room there, you would see 5 or 6 of our runners sitting in their shorts, no sweats, because they just got flown out right from the exchange point, so they don't have any gear, no wallet, no ID, no money, nothing. Just homeless, sitting right there. Waiting for you, the team captain, their spouse, somebody to come and get them. Now you can't pick up your cell phone and call anybody. You realize there's no cell service out there. Even though can't remember what team it was. An LA County Sheriff's team contacted AT&T, who told them, sure, we'll bring out what's called a CAL, a portable telephone tower. And I'm saying, well, that's interesting, because every contact I've ever made to anybody that does that, that's $10,000 per CAL, and you need 6 of them, not 1, to make it all work. So I wrote him back, I said, well, you contact them and see if they want to do 6 and they want to do it for free. Oh, I never did. I'm sure that offer was a kind offer, but not a serious one. So yeah, you can't depend on cell service, and we do depend on you to be there in case somebody does get hurt, to go back there and pick them up. They'll still be sitting in front, waiting days on end for you to get them.
Okay, one more shot of this. Okay, when we go out to, like I said, Margie has to recruit almost 70, 80 new people every year. So it's kind of our recruiting thing. But as you can see, communications fills in a lot of holes out there. For those of you who haven't seen some of the stuff, there's people that run this race for years and years and years, and all they ever see is the start, and they never see the stuff at night. Interestingly, that was video. We had the whole thing, it's a little dated, we had the whole thing done for free because that's my former B partner's kid was going to film school. He needed a project. So he shot that over a couple of years. Bring about any questions? Raise your hand if you have your communications plan 100% set right now.
Yeah, right.
Okay, then you have some homework. Remember that you should have your communications plan. You should have a good idea what you're doing by January 2nd. Team captains meeting, lunch is 11:30, meetings at 12, straight back that way.
Remember, feel free to ask for help if you need it. That's
yeah, we'll be around all the team captains meetings.
Oh.